Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching The Naturalist Capitalist, and I'm Reed Coverdale. Today on the show, I've got another special guest. I've got Greg Sadler, who is running for Oklahoma Senate. How you doing, Greg?
Doing good this morning. Thanks for having me, Reed.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. You want to just tell us about who you are, what you did before running for Senate, why you're running for Senate now, what qualifies you to be in that position? Just give us the lowdown.
Sure. Like I said, my name's Greg Sadler. I'm running for Oklahoma Senate District 17. That's just east of Oklahoma City here in central Oklahoma. This is my first time running, so I'm kind of learning as I go. I'm just an old farm boy that, I grew up on a farm. After college, I went and I got a degree in printing. I still work at the same printing company for the last little over 20 years now. I've been a long-time libertarian, but only recently have I been involved with the local party. When I started learning about libertarianism in the 90s, I thought I might be the only one, and I'd never meet another libertarian. So to see things here in the last, I'm gonna say 6-8 years, the way they have is really kind of exciting. Some of the reasons why I'm running. I guess I like to tell people a lot of times I look at the ballot and I don't see anybody that's worth my vote. So I decided to go ahead and take things into my own hands and run. Beyond that, here in Oklahoma, things are a little bit different, where we have a lot of races, or I should say a significant amount of races, where there's only a Republican maybe running. Our current senator, the last 8 years, he's ran unopposed. He had opposition in his primary, but there's no Democrat, there's no one independent, there's not a libertarian, or at least there hasn't been up till now, to run. And I just like to give people options, an opportunity. I just hate, regardless of who's on the ballot and who and what you're voting for, I just hate to see one person on there. That just takes away all your options. That's it. It's not anything that I really like to see at all. So I like to give people options. And in the meantime, I like to kind of spread the word of libertarianism. What I found is, I'm 47. A lot of folks my age and maybe a little bit older, they're not very familiar with it. You tell them libertarianism, and I hear they'll say, is that a liberal or what? And you have to go into it and explain it. The cool thing is that younger people, maybe in their 30s, 20s, whatever, whether libertarian or not, they understand it, or at least have an idea of what it's about. I had an opportunity to go to one of the community colleges here at the end of last year, and those folks, it was cool to talk to the kids in their early 20s that they kind of understood it. They wanted to learn more about it. They were open to a lot of things. I think this is a good opportunity in the history of our country, as far as people are kind of tired of the old two parties. Especially, I'm not going to say everyone, but especially the young people. They want to do something that fits them. The way that the country was 50 years ago, it's different now, and they're not used to having one or two options. They're used to having 300 channels on their TV, or any YouTube channel they can go to. When you show them a ballot that has one or two people on it, they're like, this isn't the democracy that I'm looking for. So those are some of the reasons. As far as locally here in Oklahoma, I'd like to scale back some things. We've got some issues as far as, I want to make sure we can balance the budget. We seem to spend a lot of money and not get a lot back for it. And so I'd like to cut back on taxes, of course, things like that. We're usually either we're 1, 2, or 3 in incarceration rates in the country, which seems ridiculous to me. If you've ever been to Oklahoma, most of the folks here are very down to earth, hardworking, generous, the friendliest people you're ever going to meet. How are we creating a system of laws so we're putting so many people in prison over laws that are usually over victimless crimes? So those are the things that kind of get me a little bit fired up, and I said, hey, I want to go ahead and run for Senate here and see what happens. At least get my name out there, spread some libertarianism, and see how it goes.
Awesome. So what you said about trying to reach out to younger people and the fact that the issues are more complicated and we need more solutions than we had 50 years ago. How are you going to present your message in that way? Because one critique I get a lot about the Libertarian Party is that they're old-fashioned, they're, even more outdated than the two modern parties because their solutions are so old and they don't work. How are you going to counter that narrative? How are you going to prove to young people and everybody that your solutions are nuanced and that they're going to actually provide practical solutions?
Yeah, and that's a good point. I just like to take, I say I'm a simple country boy, so I like to keep things simple. And what can be simpler than giving you back the power to live your life how you want to live your life? More government usually is not good government. I don't want to make any crazy bills or things that people have to do this. I hate the word mandate. We don't need a mandate to anything here. Just give people back the power to live their lives the way they want to. And by doing that, then you can go anywhere from that. It's not, we expect you to be a minimalist, or we want minimalist as far as government, but you can go and live your life however you want to do it, and it's fine with us. And I think the young folks, they kind of that resonates with them, that we're not forcing you to be one way or the other. Our party's limited amount of rules, structure, if you want to say that, allows for almost any and everything to be included,
Right. So I see small government is one of the 3 bullet points on your website. So we kind of covered that pretty well. The next one's gun rights. I'm going to dive into gun rights, what your positions are on what regulations should exist, which ones shouldn't, and then just your positions there.
Sure. And this is going to be the simplest topic we talk about all morning here. The Second Amendment says shall not be used, and it's a simple. Here in Oklahoma, we have constitutional carry that allows anyone to carry a weapon, which fortunately that passed just a little over a year ago, I believe. And so it's a situation where we have some pretty decent gun rights here in Oklahoma, but I want to maintain and keep those gun rights. I don't believe in red flag laws, of course. Bump stock bans, that all seems ridiculous. It's an interesting piece when I speak, because we do have a lot of Republicans here, and when I speak to them about this and say, hey, you think that you're in the party that's for gun rights, but wait a minute, you guys kind of gave in over here and here and here. And well, that's okay as long as we're in power. But I'm like, you're not always going to be empowered. Not one party's going to control everything forever. And sometimes people look at you and raise their eyebrows when you say that, because it's hard for them to imagine that, all of a sudden a Democrat's going to win. But eventually that will happen, and the tide's going to turn. If you're going to give people the power to make all these decisions over gun rights, now you've just given your opposition tools to work against you. So I'm very strong in that, as far as if everyone has the right to own and carry a gun. Fortunately, we're doing good here with what we have, but we need to continue forward with that and protect those rights.
Absolutely. What do you think we can do about gun violence? Because I'm with you on the Second Amendment, and a lot of people are, but we do have issues with gun violence, school shootings, mass shootings. What do you think can be done about that? Is it a non-government solution? Is it trying to not have these vulnerable places that we've set aside in society that shooters know they can go and they won't face opposition? What would you say to people who are worried about gun violence? What do you think we should do?
Sure, couple things. And overall, I'm going to tell you, it's not something that government can solve. I don't believe that they can solve. One thing we need to look at, I believe, that plays into this big time is mental health. No one's, that seems to be a taboo. Slowly, it's getting maybe a little bit better, but that seems to be a taboo that if anyone has a mental illness, nobody wants to tell anyone that. Nobody wants to talk about it, and therefore treatment doesn't happen, and things fester, and things get worse and worse. I like to use the example. If I told you, if I was interviewing for a job with you, and I told you a couple months ago I broke my ankle, but it's healing up, I'm getting better, I'm almost back to 100%, you wouldn't think twice. If I told you I had a bout of depression or I had a mental breakdown a couple of months ago and I'm almost back to 100%, I probably don't get that job, do I? And so that's a society thing. That's not anything a government can mandate. It's something that we as a society need to look at that a little bit differently. And there's folks out there that need help. During the 2020 here with the quarantine, that I feel that's put a lot of people into a tailspin, that if they already had some sort of a issue or concern, now you're quarantined, you're not getting, the folks that want to go out to their gym and exercise, or they want to go socialize with their family or whatever. Now they can't do those things because you're again of a government mandate that doesn't allow that. And now they have no release. They have no way to deal with some of those issues. So that's where I would start on. As far as anything else, I mean, just having an armed a population right there, people that would grow up, if you grow up around guns and you understand guns and you take them seriously, I feel like those are the folks that usually are the people that handle them best. They understand stuff. If you grew up in the country and you always had a shotgun and your dad started teaching you when you were 8 years old, you're less likely to not have respect for that gun or not have respect for human life in general. So overall, I'm gonna say it's a solution where it's more of a society thing. You can put a lot of things in place and think that this is a gun safe zone, if you will, or whatever you want to do. But I don't believe those things. I don't believe they help. It kind of feeds into another thing I like to bring up, and that is that I saw it once that doing nothing gets a bad rap, and in certain situations, doing nothing is better than making a problem worse. Now we have a system right now where it's awful hard for politicians to come back in 4 years and say, hey, I didn't pass a lot of laws. I didn't put a lot of things out there. If they were, say they went in and they did a lot of things that libertarians want, and they went in and they voted no on a lot of bills that would infringe on our freedoms and things like that, that'd be great. But then they have to come back at election time and say, what'd you do this year? Well, they want to have a long list of things, the way they made the community better. Well, that's not necessarily, I feel like we're kind of incentivizing the wrong things there. I'd rather incentivize liberty and personal freedom as opposed to what did you do? I passed this bill and now we have our economy's better, or now our schools are better, or this and that. And there's a lot of judgment involved with that. So they don't want to be the person that does nothing. So they do anything. And if it doesn't work, well, then shoot, we just blame it on the other party. We'll say they didn't work with us enough, or they didn't give it enough time, or better yet, they didn't give us enough money. We need more money for that, So that's the kind of way long-winded answer, but that's kind of the way I look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, we have a huge problem with forest fires, but we've made it worse by the last 100 years trying to prevent every single forest fire from ever happening. So now when they do happen, they're much worse. That's just kind of how the government is in general. The government intervenes and they're trying to fix a problem, and they just create bigger problems that they blame on things other than themselves. And so then when you say, we need to get the government out of this because they're just making the problem worse, everyone laughs at you. It's the same thing as the forest fires. Now the Park Service is allowing forest fires to run their course in a controlled way if they can, because they realize that if we try to control this completely, then things just get worse and worse. And I think it's the same concept that you're talking about.
Yeah, I like that. Yep. Sometimes I'll say, or if I have a hole in my boat and I'm out in the middle of the lake, is it better that the government does nothing or put a second hole in my boat? And a lot of times they're putting a second hole in my boat.
Yeah, no, exactly. The next thing you have on here is school choice. You want to just dive into that? Tell us what your views are on that.
Yeah, just generally, I just believe that we need, with anything I bring up here today, I believe in a lot of choice and a lot of options. There's no, kids today aren't going into the same world that I did, 40 some years ago. Things are different now. The environment's different. For me to pretend that, hey, the same way that we've always educated kids since, for the last 150 years, yeah, that's the best way to do it. I don't believe in that. We have to reach out. We have to give people options. We have to let people go to different schools if they want to, whether it's a private school, a charter school, or a school outside of their district. I don't like the fact that someone's zip code ties them directly to that school, and now that's where they have to go. That just doesn't seem right, and in a long range solution, I like the phrase that, why is it whenever we have any other government program that, whether it's food stamps or welfare, whatever it may be, that money goes to the family, that money would go to the children. In education, that money goes to the school. And in theory, there's some, I understand what the opposition may say about it, but over the years, we've gotten to where the administrative costs and the superintendents and all these things, it's ridiculous. I think it's around 50 on average in the United States. We spend about $15,000 per kid in tax money for every year. Well, that could pay for an awful nice private school for some of those kids and get a better education, and you can throw in. A lot of families around here I know are starting to do the homeschooling, especially since the pandemic hit. People are not interested in sending their kids to the traditional schools. So why would we send the same, if we have less kids going to a traditional brick and mortar school, why would we send the same amount of money there as we did in 2019, say? So I just want to look at all the options, and first and foremost, be looking out for the children and their education, mostly to give power back to their families, as opposed to look out for the education system. I want to take care. I'm looking out for the kids and whatever, and sometimes that may not be the same thing. Maybe it's better for this kid to homeschool, this kid to go to a charter school, this kid to go to a public school, this kid to go to a private school. I don't like being, sometimes we force a square peg in a round hole, and that feeds back a little bit what we were talking about earlier with the mental health things. You start doing that at a young age, and depending on what's going on with family, things like that, now we're almost creating some of these problems, I feel.
Absolutely. I just had Darren Hamilton on the show last night, and we talked about kind of what you were just saying, shoving a square peg in a round hole. We were talking about college and how all high schoolers are almost forced to go to college. They're given this concept that if you don't go to college, you will not be successful. And I'm not anti-college. I think some people are going to find success through going to college, getting a 4-year degree. But I did not go to college. I went into the trades, and I did line work for a while. I got my CDL. Now I'm a truck driver, and I make more money than most of the people I know who were in my class, and I make more money than most of the guidance counselors who told me that I'd be a failure if I didn't go to college. So we have this fake demand for college that drives the prices up, and that's a whole different subject we could get into about the government subsidizing loans and everything. But regardless of the debt you get in college and the wasted time that a lot of people get, I think that we need to start, kind of like you said, approaching people on an individual basis and seeing what's going to fit them best. Not this idea that everybody needs to go this way to be successful. We really need to lift people up in their own strengths and encourage them to pursue careers that are going to fulfill them and make them successful. So how do you think, first of all, do you agree with that? And then if you do you think that you can facilitate that somehow in your position, some change in that direction?
Yes to both. Yeah, I agree with that. Here in Oklahoma, at least in central Oklahoma, we have a shortage of plumbers. I've got some relatives that are plumbers. They make very good money, especially if you own your own business. I'd like to see some of the regulations pulled back on a lot of these industries so that so it's easier for a young person to, and I'm a big proponent of some of the 2-year and trade schools where if you go there, you're actually learning a trade. I can tell you that in the 4-year school that I went to, I did waste money. I didn't probably need to learn about some of the Greek gods and spend the amount of time and money on some of this stuff. And that's just one of the things I can remember. There's probably 100 things I can't. And so it's it's a situation where yes, the 4-year degrees are fine in some situations, but the 2-year degrees, man, we're missing out, and we're going to have shortages on, like I said, we have shortages on plumbers here. We're going to have shortages in some of these industries that are very well-paying industries that are great careers that, that are going to have demand down the road. There's a lot of IT technical schools around here that are 2-year degrees that will get your foot in the door of a good company, and from there you can kind of learn. That's kind of my position there, is that we should give everybody, let them go to their strengths. Now I know, in just a little quick comparison, a lot of places will compare Europe and the United States with the way that their education systems are, and they'll say, well, now these European countries, 4-year college is free. And I'm like, yeah, but not every. But here we're pushing. What percentage do you think we're pushing of kids to go to college? Probably 60+% of kids in high school classes. Well, over there maybe it's only the top 10%. Not everybody goes to college, and it's not. So it's a totally different approach. And then here we end up sending the kids that don't really want to go to college, that maybe would have been better fit for a technical school, a trade, just electrical an apprentice or something. And so we send them to a college they probably didn't want to go to. Maybe they don't graduate. They have a bad taste in their mouth. Oh, and now you got all this debt with it as well. And so how are they ever going to? And now they're stuck going to a job where they didn't get their trade, they didn't get their education. So now they're in the worst of all positions, trying to make it and trying to just pay these student loans back on something that never really did them any good. So yeah, I really think we need to shift, and that's not. Government's a part of it, like you said, and we can get into the subsidying that everybody gets a loan. I like to say, well, you can show up to a car lot, and if somebody's going to subsidize your loan for a Lamborghini, yeah, you can buy one, but it's going to take the rest of your life to pay it off. So that's not a good decision. I'll stick with the Chevy and get something that has manageable payments there. So yeah, I'm big on the 2-year schools. Folks getting degrees. Usually the cost to do those is fairly minimal. There's a lot of grants and things like that out there as well. But yeah, I'm big on that.
Yeah, and also a lot of those 2-year degrees, if it's for plumbing or electrical work, a lot of companies will pay for your schooling if you give them a couple years of service or something. So that's another great way to get that out of the way.
Yes. Yep. Definitely.
Do you want to expound on any other issues that are big in Oklahoma in your district that aren't on your website? What other top priorities do you have?
Just a couple of them. I think we touched on the deregulation a little bit, but that's something. It just seems ridiculous to me that someone, kind of with the trades and the programs and stuff, someone can go to a hair school and learn how to cut hair or do nails or whatever it may be. Why do they need to get a permit from the government every year to just to do this? If I don't like my haircut, I might not come back. It doesn't mean it. I think some of that's ridiculous. And then, of course, the worst part of those is, okay, if they forget to pay it on time or they forget to do this, well, then the government can shut their business down or levy fees against them, and it just snowballs from there. Why do we even have these? One of the other things recently I've been talking about a little bit is, I don't know how it is there, but in Oklahoma, we still tax our groceries. We're one of, I think, 13 states that still tax groceries. And that's something that just blows my mind, that we're in a situation. We've got the CARES Act, the economy's in trouble, thousands of people in our state have lost their job due to these government mandated shutdowns. We're trying to get things going again. People are in a bad way. They can't pay their mortgage because they haven't worked since March, things like that. But by God, we better tax them when they go get that loaf of bread and jar of peanut butter, you know? And I'm like, what? And part of it is, my thought is that the government, once you give them control, they can use those as kind of like your little puppet strings. You know, you have to do this and this in order to get that stimulus check or to get whatever you need back. Let's just not tax people to start with. You know, if we really say that we care about low income folks and being able to feed their family, then why are we still taxing them for that? That blows my mind that we do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I certainly wish you the best of luck. You have my endorsement, Worth, and
I appreciate it.
Just tell us what we can do to help you. Are you looking for more interviews? Are you looking for money? Are you looking for social media platforms? What can we do to help your race?
Sure. All of the above, I'll say. I'd give my website a plug here. It's www.sadlerforoksenate.com. You can just search probably on the web, Sadler for Senate, but sadlerforoksenate.com. I can take donations. It's a little bit of a unique situation this year with the pandemic. I haven't been going out and knocking on too many doors yet. I've got in touch with some businesses, put out a few signs. I was hoping that by July things would change a little bit and I could get out and shake a few more hands. That's been slow going as of yet, but yeah, no, I'm open to doing interviews with anyone. Obviously, we take donations. Follow me on Twitter. I've got all my information on the website there, but I appreciate all the exposure we can get. This will be, I want to mention, this will be a two-person race. It'll be a Republican against myself. They have a runoff election at the end of August, and then I'll find out who I'll be running against. But it's always good to be in a two-person race, in situations like this. So, and I appreciate you for having me today.
Yeah, no problem. I will put a link to your website and to your Twitter page in the video description. So you guys are watching, you can just go down there to click on that. And yeah, support this guy. Give him some help. We need more people like him out there representing us.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man. And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you on the next show.